Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Professional Study Day for middle and secondary art educators. This is Erin Saladino. I'm the art education supervisor, and I really appreciate everybody getting together and coming together today in what is kind of a little bit different than how we normally host Professional Study Day, in that we do not have all of our K-12 art peeps together, but only middle school and high school art educators at Jefferson High School. Our elementary teachers are kind of divided up amongst 14 different hub sites across the district. So they're in their little PLC groups, and you guys are kind of divided up into your little PLC groups today. So aside from just a little bit of shuffling around for two opportunities for breakout sessions, you will remain in the room where you are this morning. So we're going to go ahead and go through this pre-recorded general session. And after this general session, you'll have the opportunity to kind of provide any feedback or ask any questions through a survey. And you'll notice that that is kind of underneath this link on the campus page that you're in. So let's go ahead and look at our objectives for today. We'll look at our agenda and then go over just a reminder of systems of support. We have a new person that's kind of stepping into our art world for support. Other resources, reminders about protocol and budget, importance of advocacy, some event expectations and updates, and then communication and preparedness reminders as we are moving away from first class, and now all of us have Outlook and Teams. So today's agenda, you guys are in your little networking, little PLC or networking groups this morning. So you're going to have time after this general session to do a little bit of networking with your colleagues, kind of touch base. And, you know, we have spent a lot of time even before the current pandemic situation of just kind of being islands at our own school. And many of us do not have art coworkers to work with. So, you know, use this up as an opportunity to, you know, kind of touch base with like-minded people. So that will be from 8 o'clock to 10 o'clock. You're also going to make sure that you complete the feedback survey after the general session. And then we're going to have two opportunities for breakout sessions. And those sessions are about 45 minutes. There are more spaces than there are for people, which means that any populated groups shouldn't be super large. So we can spread out within those different breakout sessions. And there's a 15 minutes kind of like transition in between for anybody that needs to use the restroom. But also I want to give a quick shout out to those teachers that kind of stepped up to the plate to offer breakout session you know, opportunities for everyone else. After that, we're going to have lunch on your own. You have about an hour. So you could have brought your lunch, or if you wanted to kind of, you know, venture out somewhere close, but please make sure that you are back and signed in by 1 o'clock. And you are going to report back to your network group again. So wherever you are right now is where you will return after lunch. And then after that, we're going to share and plan. It was a request for you to bring not only your own device, but also a lesson plan. So I'll talk a little bit about that in a couple of minutes. But then we're going to kind of, you know, share ideas so that way we can build capacity with our lesson plans that we have for everyone to share. And then after that, we are going to be concluding our day with a survey. So just like with any other professional study day that we've had in the past, it is a teacher work day. And so the district wants to make sure that we have accountability of your time because it is a teacher work day. So there are a couple of different ways that your time is going to be accounted for. And that information is also shared with your site administrators to make sure that they can count you as officially being present for a work day, and that you can also get paid and not get docked for any kind of personal time. So different artifacts that are going to be used to show your presence for today are your registration in PDS. And if you do not know how to do that, the information is on the Canvas page, the general, I think it's like general information page that I created. You're going to go into Staff Hub, and actually our new PDS system is lovely. It is so much easier to navigate, and it's a lot easier on the eyes. But please make sure that you register yourself for Professional Study Day in our PDS system, because no one will do it for you. Your Canvas activity participation analytics. So every time you kind of log into Canvas, you know this from when you worked with your students in Canvas, it does show kind of like their time that they're on. So that is used. There are multiple times today that you're going to be asked for some kind of feedback or submissions of your lesson plans through the surveys. So obviously your participation with the surveys and then that submission of your lesson plan. If you choose to, are using this day as a personal day, remember that this is a pre-recorded session, so this could be archived and used later. So if you have decided that you are going to use professional study day as a personal day or a sick day, then you just need to go through the same steps of reporting that to your site secretary or whoever kind of processes your sick leave or personal leave. So there's going to be a ton of information that's going to be shared today. And just like we have expectations for our students to participate, it is also an expectation for you to participate as well. All right, so we're going to kind of dive into just a couple of reminders of different systems of support, people that are here to support you, community opportunities, different associations that you can be a part of. So this is just a quick reminder that, there are several different ways that people can, be there to help you in different ways to make sure that you and your programs are successful. All right, so your district level support art and theater supervisor, that's me. And these are just a couple of reminders of things that, I am capable or any supervisor is capable of doing. I know that I always tout that I'm always here to help, but there are times where people reach out to me and there are things that are kind of out of my control because it's, decisions that are kind of made above my head or decisions that first need to be made at the site level. So these are just some quick reminders of, different things that I am able to support you with as the supervisor. So any kind of curriculum support, curriculum maps, course reviews, materials, textbooks, stuff like that. Course resource or Canvas resource course upkeep. So, as things evolve or change, we try to go in and make sure that our Canvas courses for middle school art and secondary art, and then those art ed resources are kind of, up to date, and especially when it comes to events. We provide opportunities for professional development based on present resources. So I'll talk a little bit about professional development opportunities in a bit. Equipment material support, like I said, textbooks, kiln repair. We'll do a quick reminder about what the process is if you need help with your kiln. Ordering info like vendors, movement of equipments from one site to another. Sometimes like I've got a printing press and I don't need it. Does anybody want it? What do I do? So I can help you with that. Event organization and communication. So when we have like community members or big events and that information needs to be shared to all high school teachers or whatever, I am that person that kind of sends out those calls for work. And depending on what the event is, I also may be in charge of kind of property control and collecting that artwork and then making sure it gets to the community members or whatever. Liaison support at the site level for art programs. I strongly encourage you guys to first kind of make sure that you know what your rights are and that you advocate for yourself. So that's kind of the big first step. You want to make sure that you kind of advocate for yourself before you reach out to me. Nobody likes surprises, and administrators certainly don't like surprises when I come knocking on their door and they haven't heard about the problem first. So as much as I am here to support you, with anything that's happening at your site, as well as kind of having, being that advocate at the district level for our content area, I just want to make sure that you understand that it is really important that you advocate for yourself at your site level also. District representation of art programs amongst all major stakeholders. So like I said, I am the representative of our content area at the district level, but then also kind of that last square. I kind of represent, ourselves at the community, state and national representation of our district. So, all supervisors from all school districts in the state of Florida get together once a month, and we kind of talk about what it is we're doing, and I represent us. So I'm super excited to kind of introduce our new district resource teacher. We had Jane at the beginning of last year, and she retired in March, and she is doing wonderful things. And there was a little bit of kind of gap in time where we were not hiring anybody in the district. And over the summer, we advertised for a district resource position, specifically for art and theater. And we had, Kylie and a couple of other people stepped up to the plate. And Kylie is wonderful. For those of you that don't know, she worked at Plant City High School for the last couple of years, but she also has experience at the elementary level, and she has some theater experience as well. So these are just some different things that Kylie can help you with, just like Jane did. She can assist, facilitate, guide new and struggling educators. So she's going to be there to help those newbies, but also if there's anybody that has any questions like curriculum writing or lesson plans or classroom management, Kylie can certainly come out and kind of provide you guys with a little like non-evaluative feedback, co-teaching, whatever it is that you need. She provides insight on best practices for all educators. This is just kind of like those, like, hey, what's the best way to handle this, or reminding you about, grading policies or stuff like that. So if you have questions about best practices or what's kind of the right thing to do, or what's the most prudent way to handle this, Kylie would definitely be a good resource. Analyze educator needs assessments for PD opportunities. So throughout the day today, there's going to be opportunities for you, to kind of share your feedback, what your needs are. Are there things that you can provide as PD, or to help your colleagues? So those that survey data is what Kylie is going to kind of comb over for the next couple of weeks, so we can kind of develop a plan of who our superstars are and their superpowers and how they can kind of assist and add to a leadership team, but also what your needs are and where we have gaps and where we need to kind of focus on making sure we provide what it is you need for your programs. Assist in communication of event information. So, while a call for work may officially come out from me, there's going to be times where Kylie is sending out those reminder emails. Just so we skip down to the second row first box, provide follow-up reminders for missing work. She's going to send that stuff out, but also she's going to be helping with student art preparation for district events. So things like labels and installs and organization, and making sure that anything that is sent to us is sent back to you. If certificates or ribbons are required, she's going to have her hands all over that. Collection and distribution of mailed artwork, and installation assistance in district events. So make sure that if you need help with any of those things and I am not readily available, Kylie is your lady. For those of you that are not aware of our Hillsborough County Public Schools arts and education programs, Carol Vick is a wonderful resource for you to kind of tap into. Carol originally worked with the Arts Council, and the district had kind of like a contract with the Arts Council. And after several years, the last couple of years, we brought Carol in her arts and education programs in-house. So the way that works is Carol is provided kind of a budget every year that is specifically tagged just for visiting artists and cultural experiences and field trips. And she actually has a catalog online. So if you look at the very bottom of this first Canvas page in general information, you can click there and see if there's any opportunities that you're interested in and reach out to Carol, and then she can definitely talk to your administration about getting those artists in. And because she does have a budget, a lot of the stuff that she does is no cost to you. It's just a matter of trying to kind of organize, your schedule or whatever. So Carol Vick is, again, a wonderful resource. Please make sure that you check out the link at the very bottom of the general information page for her catalog, so that way you can kind of see there's visiting artists, there's writers, performers, and different kind of community opportunities for field trips. So I put in here, don't forget our Canvas resources. Last year, Canvas was obviously a really, really big thing. And it was very overwhelming because we were kind of thrown into this all virtual e-learning experience at first. And then when we had our our kind of, hybrid models where we were, having to depend on Canvas and then also teach face to face. But the stuff in Canvas is still there. And right now, with things kind of taking it one step at a time and one day, one day at a time, that we don't want to kind of forget how we can use Canvas as a resource if we do have all of our students face to face and using them as presentation models. So just because we are not in an e-learning environment right now does not mean that we need to completely forget all of the advantages that Canvas provides as far as communication, organization, and stuff like that, especially if we do have students that are going to be, either quarantined or, just sick and out, that way you can use the option for you to be able to communicate to families that way as well. Something else that I also want to kind of touch base on. We did get a lot of feedback last year from the lesson plans that were written by teachers for the district and put into Canvas in Canvas Commons. And while all of them I would consider to be very great lessons, a couple of things that you want to kind of keep in mind is that just like if you were to go out and find any other lesson out in the art lesson ether out there, whether it's Pinterest or DSpace Sparkle or wherever you want to find it, that you are not ever going to take that lesson plan and just use it cookie cutter for your students. You're always going to have that mindset of kind of adapting and formatting and modifying whatever it is you find to meet the specific needs of your students and the environment that you have and the materials that you have, but also like your own teaching style. So as you're using any of those lessons that we have in Canvas Commons, in addition to any of the lessons that we have in those archived inspirations, that you are adapting and formatting and modifying. Okay, and then also just keep in mind that our Canvas resource courses, they're written there for best practices, for reminders of those essential elements that a lesson plan should have. So make sure that anything that you are finding that you're previewing and kind of making sure that they are following the district expectations for a lesson plan. So this is just kind of touching base as a reminder of our PLCs. Historically, our professional learning communities, organized by Jenny Martin, who is a superstar art teacher at Deer Park Elementary. And it's a big deal for her to kind of take it on and help with organization. Our PLCs were all face-to-face. And so we have colleagues that kind of step up to the plate as being PLC leaders in different regions of the district. So one person doesn't have to drive across the district at the end of a school day just to attend a PLC. But we've noticed last year with a lot of our PLCs kind of being forced to go virtual that we actually had more participation in our PLCs virtually because, we have, many of our teachers have families and all of our teachers have lives. And after you are done with the end of an exhausting day, even if it's on a Monday for an early release, it's hard to kind of commit to getting in your car and then driving somewhere and then spending an hour and then driving home or kind of rearranging your schedule. So we did notice that there was a lot more participation virtually, and I'm going to kind of work with Jenny, and she can work with a lot of our PLC hosts to see what their comfort level is. And then more communication will be shared on how our PLCs are going to look this coming school year. So just keep an eye out. Remember that PLCs are completely optional. They are voluntary. You do not have to attend. But at the same time, if you do choose to attend, please make sure that you sign in with your name and your LASA number because all of those sign-in sheets are kind of accumulated at the end of the year. And then they're put into PDS so you can do an evaluation and get in-service credit for them. So there are times where people can rack up as much as 15 hours in a school year of just PLC hours. So just something to think about. All right, so let's go ahead and talk about PD opportunities. A lot of the feedback that we get, and I kind of chuckle about it only because a lot of the feedback that we usually get about why do we not have any art PD or where can I get PD points specifically for art is usually in like the April, May time, which is when anybody that realizes that they still need in-service points for their certificate that is up June 30th are kind of scrambling last minute to find any kind of points. And so I kind of, reiterate this several times, during that time of year, but I'm going to go ahead and just say it here so that way we're kind of on the same page. And then that way also, if you have experiences to share, that you can kind of reach out to me. So there are 3 different opportunities for professional development. There's Art PD that is within the district, and Art PD opportunities, like the ones that you could find in PDS, usually occur when we have the following. So they're offered when either we have funding is available to pay for experts to present. So if I have money that is, or the district has money to pay for an expert to come out and or travel here for the day or whatever, and then pay them for their time, that is one way that we can offer PD in the district. Experts or community members that want to do that presentation for free, which nowadays is very hard because everybody's time is very, very valuable and everybody's knowledge is very valuable, and I completely respect that. Teachers present training suggestions with an area of need and they present to peers. Okay, now I would never expect for teachers to want to volunteer their time either. So it would either have to be like the first bullet point, that I have funding to be able to pay for those teachers for their time and their expertise, which I wouldn't think anything otherwise, or those teachers do volunteer their time for free. And I mean, let's be very realistic here. Y'all are tired and y'all work really hard. And I would never expect for an art teacher to kind of step up to the plate and do that for free. And then lastly, supervisor, which is me, creates, offers, and presents trainings based on district-wide need. So I will tell you that when I stepped into this position about 4 years ago, I didn't have any of the other bullet points at the top. So I volunteered to, after the needs assessment that we took at the end of our professional study the first time, I made 3 trainings and booked them and had them ready, and we barely had anybody turn up. And so when we have a lot of people asking for professional development, and then when opportunities are provided and to definitely based on the needs that you guys share, and then nobody shows up, it's kind of hard. But those are kind of like different reasons why when you look in PDS, we really don't have a lot of PD art opportunities that are within the district. So if there's anybody that does have kind of like a expert knowledge or things that they want to share, and you can hit me up at the right time, I can certainly request funds for trainings. So that's just going to kind of throw that out there. The next one is out of district PD offerings. So this is where you take college courses, you go to community centers, you take online courses, or PD experiences, or if you're part of FAEA and they offer kind of like summer workshops. A couple of things that you want to take into consideration, because obviously we are lifelong learners and we want to kind of soak up as much knowledge as possible, but also it's really nice to get those in-service points to be able to add to our certificate. So before you kind of shell out $300 to take an online workshop, you're kind of expecting to kind of cash those in for some kind of in-service points, make sure that you understand the following. Number one, it must be a minimum of 3 hours of learning experience. So if it's 2 hours, if it's 1 hour, it will not count. And this is not a rule that I make. It is not even a rule that our school district makes. It is a state in-service rule. Okay, because remember, your certificate that you're cashing in all your in-service points for is for a state certificate. So they actually it's from the state certification office. The second thing is you must complete the request form for the in-service points, and it is found in the Art Ed Resources course in Canvas. And then you also must include proof of registration. So that can be either like an email saying that you had to register or you paid. If it was free, just an email is fine. Or a certificate of completion if they are, kind of sending, giving those out at the end of the training. And you have to have an agenda with itemized time. And what I mean by that is networking does not count, registration does not count. Meals, transportation from one area of a campus to the other does not count. It has to be 3 hours of actual learning or presentation time. So if you have an agenda and it has 5 hours worth, but 3 of those hours worth is lunch and breakfast and sign in and registration, and only 2 hours of learning, they're not going to count that. So you just want to kind of make sure that you have all those artifacts. You're going to have those that form signed, and you're actually not going to send it downtown to me. You're going to have your administrator sign it, and then you're going to send it directly to the PD office. Okay. So those are different opportunities for outside the district PD. And the last box is outside of the box district offered PD. So what I mean by that is, there were many times where I've recertified, I can't tell you how many times. And it's like, I need a couple of points, or, over the summer, you want to kind of take some trainings because you don't have any time during the school year. And so there were times where I took, reading workshops, or those classroom management workshops. And sometimes you kind of have to think outside the box and think like, okay, so what could I glean from this content area training that could work for my content? If it's things like higher order thinking questions or just general teaching strategies, those are the best. So you kind of want to, if you obviously don't see any art PDs in PDS catalog for you to kind of, get in service points for, consider looking at other content areas. And if they're not restricted to only people in that content area, maybe consider that. So the last thing I have down at the bottom is a PD out of the district PD opportunity. And actually, because the Tampa Museum of Art ladies over there who are wonderful work with me, it will be in PDS for you to register for. So their teacher preview night for the fall is August 19th, and it's from 5 to 8. Right now, they are kind of looking for possible virtual accommodations, but as of right now, it will be face-to-face. And for those of you that have never ventured out there, it actually is a very lovely evening. Most of the time they have some kind of, snacks or charcuterie boards or whatever out. Their chocolate chip cookies are amazing. So light snacks, they tell us about the upcoming exhibitions and what kind of, what they offer in the way of field trips. And then after that, you can go and kind of explore the museum on your own. With the intent of you kind of using the information that you have that you can apply towards some kind of lesson plan that you will do in the future with your students. And that is 3 in-service points. So I will have that in PDS probably by the end of next week, but I will put an announcement out. So you already have at least 3 points of in-service that you could attend if you'd like. But if you have any other questions about PD opportunities, please reach out. So one of the systems of support that we offer in our community is the Hillsborough Art Education Associations, or HAEA. And I actually have kind of like a one-stop shop PDF at the bottom of this page in Canvas with HAEA. So you can go on there and kind of, there's, kind of the most up-to-date information from their crew. But also there is a QR code where you can kind of scan and then register for your membership. So they've gotten very, very tech savvy. But then it's a great opportunity for you to kind of mill around with like-minded people. They support every art educator in our community. So it is not just our public schools, but our charter schools, private schools, anybody that is an art educator and working with students. And they provide tons of opportunities from social events, professional development workshops. So they do provide those for in-service points, and even mini grants. And they also kind of support some of our art educators with getting to the state conference for FAEA. Which brings me to FAEA, or the Florida Art Education Association. If you are not part of FAEA, it is a $45 annual dues, and that includes kind of like a monthly information that they share with you, as well as workshops and opportunities, especially over the summer, that you can cash in for in-service points. The state conference, they have one every year, and it usually kind of hops around every couple of years throughout the state. And so it was in St. Pete for a couple of years. And this year it is in Orlando in mid-October, I believe. If you are not part of FAEA, it is a wonderful place to kind of see and be inspired. Every time I leave, I'm always like, yeah, I'm going to try this kind of thing. And it's great. So if you are not part of FAEA, I strongly suggest it. So just to continue with the acronyms, we have HEF, or Hillsborough Education Foundation, and HEF is also really wonderful. They have a nice, sweet place in their heart for art educators, and they provide college scholarships, mini grants. They assist with Carol Vick in our arts and education programs. Also, for anybody that is participates in Scholastic, which should be everybody because it's an expectation. They are huge supporters of our Scholastic Art and Writing programs. They actually go out and find people to sponsor us. So they help with the reception and the award ceremony and getting all of the regional awards and the gift cards and stuff like that. So they are huge and they are super, super helpful and super supportive. On top of the fact that they also provide that free teacher store. So any teacher that is at a Title I school, you get one trip per month. I will tell you that anybody that has never been there, because it's out of your comfort zone to kind of drive over there and then find a place to park. First, there is plenty of parking, even though it is kind of, in downtown Tampa area. You go in and it's a treasure trove. You never really know what you're going to find. So my suggestion is, if you are a Title I teacher, to kind of go out every month or as much as you can and kind of, see what you can find. Any teacher that is in a non-Title I school, you get a free trip a month, and you kind of do your 3 hours of volunteer time. So you kind of go, over there and kind of help them, organize the new stuff that comes in and, check people out, in their, when they're kind of cashing out their shopping list or whatever. But it's definitely, it's definitely kind of like a treasure hunt. So, if you're in need of supplies, head on over there. All right, so let's go ahead and talk really quick about our budget. Our per student consumable supply money did not change this year. So you have been provided $4.75 per enrolled art student per semester, okay? So nothing has changed there, but just a reminder that there is a disclaimer in the board agenda item, and I know that this one says, the one from 2020, I just kept this snippet, but it's the same wording, in that technically your school is allowed to withhold 10% of your art funds, okay? And so many of us are looking at each other and kind of with wide eyes already, I'm sure. In that historically, there have been times where schools, there are site administrators that 100% of that art money goes directly to art students because that's what the board approved. Whereas you had other administrators that kind of withheld some of that art money and science money and some other funds that are kind of sent to the school and used for school needs because the district did not provide them enough funds for those school needs. So they kind of, pulled funds from, art and science and other places to kind of use for school needs. So not like pizza parties or anything, but kind of legit need. However, sometimes, some schools kind of snowballed to where it was not 10%, but it was more like 40% or 50%. And so to put in writing that a school can withhold up to 10% of those funds is something that, if you are looking at your funds and you feel that it is more than 10% is being withheld, that you can definitely advocate for yourself with your bookkeeper first, I suggest, and then with your administration. And then if that kind of doesn't go anywhere, at that point, you can kind of reach out to me and we can see what we can do about having, some very kind of professional communication and reminders with your school site, okay? So this is no big surprise. This is kind of how our district kind of sends out money to your school site. Remember that we get about half now, and then we get about the other half in January. So keep in mind that the way that your money is given to you, your $4.75 per enrolled student, is based on your previous year's enrollment. So let's say, for example, that your school had 100 students enrolled in art last year at the end of the year. So they're going to assume that there's 100 students that are going to be enrolled at the beginning of this year. Okay, so they give you $475, or actually $900 technically, and then they cut it in half and give you half of it, which is $475 of the $950. And then they look at the 20-day count. And so if your 20-day count, your enrollment is higher than $100 or 100 students, then when January comes around, you're going to get a little bit more than $475 for your second half, right? If you look at the 20-day count and your enrollment is less than 100 students, then come January time, you might get a little bit less. And the reason why the district does this is so that way they're not giving you $1 bazillion at the beginning of the year, and then they realize that your enrollment is down, and then they have to take some away. They kind of give you half and then adjust based on your enrollment at the 20-day count, and then figure out evenly what it is you should be getting total by January. Right. So here is my strong suggestion to you: is to use your money. Last year, because we were in a little bit of a budget crisis, we spent our money, or we got half of our money at the beginning of the year, and then during the second half of the year, the entire district felt that crunch. For some of us, we were told, absolutely not, you cannot spend anything else. And then for some of us, it was, you give me a lesson plan that explains exactly why you need this money, and then we will purchase this stuff on your behalf. Okay. Now, I will tell you that directly in the one of the school board meetings, that the superintendent did say that if a teacher needed something like art supplies or science supplies or whatever, that they were to work with their administration, and administration would make sure that it happens. So I don't know exactly how many of you went and advocated for yourselves that way, but we are starting fresh this year, and you should be getting your money. But I will tell you, please spend your money. Okay, so come January, when you get your second half, that money can easily be swept in February. And so we had people that went to go put their orders in with their bookkeeper and didn't stay on their bookkeeper, and then the money was swept and y'all didn't get your supplies because the bookkeeper was dragging their feet. I'm not saying that they're not busy, okay? But you kind of want to stay on them and make sure that your stuff is ordered and ready to go by February. Okay, so I kind of pulled this snapshot from elementary schools, but every month I can ask for kind of like a cost center report, and it shows how much money you were given each school is given for their art account, how much that they've spent, and how much is left. Okay, and I don't do this to be nosy, but I do this to kind of see, number one, did you get the money that you were supposed to be getting? Number two, if you're not spending your money, why are you not spending your money? Is it because you have everything you need, or is it because people are discouraging you to spend your money? Like, what's going on? But then also, this really helps with advocating at the district level that y'all need more money. So $4.75, well, that is like, big bucks compared to many of the other districts in the state of Florida that get nothing for art supplies. At the same time, we know that that's really a pittance, especially when we want to have our programs be as amazing as they are. But it is also very hard for me to advocate at the district level of, hey, you know what, my art teachers could really use more money, when by February, we look over in the balance section and we still have teachers that have thousands of dollars in their bank, in their account, okay? So that's another reason why it's really important for you to spend that money. The last thing is, your administration also can see how much money is in your account. So if you don't spend your money by February and you still have $900 in your art account, then they just assume that you don't need it. And then when that money, right before that money is swept, they go, well, that's a waste of money and I don't want that money to be swept. I'm going to go ahead and buy 3 boxes of toner for the printer. Okay, so please use your money. If you have to use it and stock up for fall the next year, then use it. Just some quick reminders about ordering supplies and clay. High Water Clay is still helping us stock the warehouse. So remember that if you need to order clay, you're going to work with your bookkeeper to create a requisition, and then he or she will communicate with the warehouse and then have that clay sent to you. We did have a little bit of a delay last year with ordering clay. Part of that was just because High Water Clay was not in supply to get the stuff to our warehouse. So it was kind of like that domino effect because of COVID. But we should be good to go now. As far as vendors to consider, so I want you to kind of like think ahead. If you need something fast, you need Sharpies like in the next 2 days, use Staples. If you need Sharpies within the next 2 weeks, then use School Specialty. They're not as fast. And remember that we have a local Staples that kind of, helps supply what we need for the school district. School Specialty supplies the nation. So, you might want to just, plan ahead on what it is that you need and who you want to order from. And then Blick is great. So, and we have kind of, if you're in a pinch, we have a local Blick store that you can kind of, touch base with. They're wonderful. They work with me, so you can definitely go in and say, hey, look, I'm in a pinch and I need, 300 black Sharpies. They'll work with you. All right, so just kind of plan ahead in your ordering. Kiln support. So for middle school and high school, every year I request a certain chunk of money. That money is kind of, processed and put into a purchase order. And then that way, as you have kiln needs, you are going to kind of, you're going to follow these steps. This is really important. I know that there are many of you that have Peter on speed dial. Peter Desi is our kiln guru. He is amazing. And for those of you that have older kilns, you see that dude 3 or 4 times a year. Okay. And so I know that you have built a rapport with him. However, the only way that Peter can get paid is if we go through this process. So if you call him up or you text him and you tell him that, hey, I'm so-and-so from this school, I need for you to come out. He's not going to be grumpy with you, but he may call me up and say, hey, you need to tell this person that, they need to call you first. So please, if you have an issue with your kiln, you're actually going to reach out to our DRT. So you're going to email Kylie Hingle. All right. Kylie Hingle is going to communicate. We're going to communicate with Peter. We email Peter and say, hey, Peter, so-and-so over at this school is having an issue. This is what the issue is. And then I will give him that purchase order number. He goes out, he fixes it, everything's great, and then I pay him. So please make sure that you do not reach out to him directly. We had some issues last year with people doing that, and then bookkeepers got involved, and then how did he get paid? And it was just kind of messy. But we do have funds for you if you need it. And he, remember, he also has a business to run as well as coming to help us. So if he's not out there by the next day, he'll get out there as soon as he can. All right, so a few more just quick logistics. The first one is life happens. All right, this past year, life really happened a lot for a lot of people. And a lot of people had to make really hard professional decisions, based on, family needs and health needs and financial needs. And, whether it's in the middle of a pandemic or whether it's just every day, if life happens, if you have to make a really hard decision, I know all those decisions are hard, to retire or leave or even transfer from one school to the other, please let me know. I promise to never ask. It is none of my business. The only reason I need to know this is so that way I can support the school that you leave, and then also support you once to get wherever you're going to go. So if you're transferring to another school, that I can support you there. Also, if you are leaving and retiring or moving away from the district, that I know how to at least keep your program afloat until they bring somebody else in. I do also want to kind of remind you to keep some kind of subfolder or a sub tub or something. Part of classroom management is making sure that your students can function if a teacher, if you are not there and a sub is there. And sub plans are important because I cannot tell you how many times last year I got a phone call at 7 o'clock in the morning on my personal cell phone of, hey, my art teacher isn't here and she didn't leave any sub plans. So what do you got? And that is not without pulling the professional card, that is not a professional responsibility of mine, is to write your sub plans. So please make sure that you have something because life does happen. right? Mailing procedures, your Brown portfolios, if you do not have a Brown portfolio, please email me and let me know, and I will make sure that you get one. And that is how we are sending any kind of artwork in district mail. If you are going to be submitting something, for a competition. And then that way, when I turn it back to you, I have your portfolio to send it back. If you send something in school mail that is a box that is wrapped in duct tape 5 million times, and when the only way for me to get inside of that mailing package is to destroy the mailing package, then there might be a delay in the return of your work, only because it's a lot. So please help out by either sending return packaging or sending something that can be reused to send your work back. The last thing also is deadlines are for real. I try to, because I know that your time is important. I know that there's only so much face time that you have with your students, that I usually try to give you guys up until like the day before I have to drive to St. Pete to bring 400 pieces of Dali work for judging at the museum. I don't give you a week of buffer time. I give you like a day. So if you don't have your stuff in school mail 3 days before that deadline, or you don't get it to me the day of the deadline, I cannot promise you that student work is going to be put into, something to be adjudicated. So, and I certainly don't want to hurt any baby's feelings by telling them, oh, we didn't, your artwork wasn't considered because it wasn't brought in by the deadline. Okay. So, deadlines are for real. Life happens. Please just kind of keep me in the loop without me getting too nosy. And then also mailing procedures. Just a quick assessment, a reminder about assessments. Historically, if you needed new exams, or you're teaching a new course, so you need a pack of 25 or whatever, you would reach out to the supervisor, and the supervisor would either order them for you at the beginning of the term, or they would make a whole bunch of copies and run them out to you, or whatever. Part of under new district leadership last year, and the kind of reorganization of a lot of things, anything assessment related is completely under the assessment office. Okay, so there were some of you that reached out and they were like, hey, I need this exam, and I need it by next Thursday, and we are not allowed to handle exams anymore. So the way that the assessments office, they communicate the testing windows, they communicate the test IDs, and any kind of test orders are all communicated with your APCs, and whether they communicate with your department heads or not, that's kind of site logistics. But if you have any questions about assessments or orders or needs, you need to talk directly with your APC, and they need to communicate directly with the assessments office. Sharing of supplies. So with the reopening plan coming out, communication was not shared with me, and I was not asked to provide any guidance on shared supplies and kind of where we are based on last year. So I'm just going to kind of read this verbatim, and we're going to, because remember, I'm pre-recording this and it's Saturday night. So as of this recording, this information has not been officially shared. However, if it is shared as a professional study day, August 3rd, it will be linked in the general information portion of our Canvas course. So if it is down there on the general information page, you can click on that and see what the guidance is from the district on shared supplies. My suggestion is, my unofficial suggestion is that you consider communicating to students of bringing their own supplies. And then any students that cannot provide their own supplies, that is what your consumable supplies budget can contribute to. Again, that is unofficial, but at this point, because we don't have any direct information from the district, that's all that I can share. Advocacy, how to support your art or your own program. I kind of talk about this every year, and last year we were hit. And any kind of, and it wasn't just art, it was kind of all different content areas and kind of loose, open-ended units and allocations across the district, with kind of, it contributing to the financial crisis that we were in within the district, units and allocations for every single content area were looked at really closely. Okay, so a lot of what happened was they looked at student enrollment for all courses, especially electives, because we are an elective and we are not something that is a core content area. And so we are based on student interest. And so we looked at numbers, and then schools or principals were presented with the number of units and allocations that they needed to have blank period within their school, and then decisions were made. Okay. And we had some art programs cut, we had a ton of theater programs cut, and we had some music programs cut. And so because that is based on student enrollment, and also that they have created a formula based on how many students need to be in a course, which is another soapbox that I'm not going to get onto right now. But the unpleasant reality is that there is no real state mandate that a student has to take necessarily an art course. They have other elective options that they can choose, especially for graduation. Okay, so I use this every year. Yes, haha, it's funny. Yes, haha, it's kind of lame too, but it does represent the fact that you are the personification of art. And so you work with many stakeholders at your school site, okay? So you work with principals, you work with other administration, you work with, you know, other staff and faculty members, and each one of those people has grown up to be an art lover, or be somebody who tolerates art, or someone who finds art to be not a necessity at all. And so how you present our content area through how you interact with all of those people either contributes to how it is they feel about art or changes their mind. Okay, so if you are a team player, if you are someone that falls asleep in a faculty meeting, or is the person in the back of the faculty meeting that kind of crosses their arms and says nothing, nothing has anything to do with our content area, then maybe that ends up being what the outlook is that we aren't, an integral part of the success of the school. So, 3 things that you want to think about as you're being present and as you are representing our content area. Number 1, you have to, present yourself, and you don't need to be anyone's best friend, but at the same time, as you represent the importance of what it is that we do with our students, you need to be, approachable, and art should be flexible and a team player and willing to grow. And having kind of like that positive vibe, for lack of a better term, is representing art as being something that is positive. Okay, present your curriculum. No one is asking for you to create a PowerPoint to present to your administration on what it is that you do. But, as you have visitors come in your classroom, or in conversation, or in any other way that your content area is being presented at your school, sliding little things in to show, legitimacy, which, as sad as it is, that is the plight of our content area, is to continuously kind of share why we are legitimate and why we are important and why we are pretty much the most important, because we make sure that the other aspects of a student's world are tangible in what it is that we do. Slip in how we incorporate math or science or culture, literacy, social emotional learning, which is a big buzzword right now for obvious reasons. People are waking up and realizing how important mental health is, and how, our art is being used as, an outlet for communication and personal voice for our students. So this is kind of like another, another feather in our cap. How are you making accommodations for the students that need it? Are you making sure that students are assessed to identify their needs? So as you are, these are all things that we do, and it's almost like breathing, but we never tell anybody, hey, guess what I'm breathing right now? We just do it. But maybe being intentional on kind of in conversation or in the, the exhibitions that you do, having a little extra sheet of paper or an extra, some signage that kind of shows like quick connections and what it is that you do, having to be intentional, while that's sad, because we use it as a form of just trying to legitimize ourselves, it's really important for those stakeholders that are at your site that grew up with no art, or that grew up thinking art is not a big deal, or how is art connected to something else? So sometimes we have to do that to change their minds. Another thing is making a fuss. And especially with this social emotional learning and building confidence and recognizing student passion, just while you may make those connections and build that rapport with your students within your classroom, they can't, if they don't see it, then how do they, if the people, those stakeholders don't see it, then how do they know? So if it is an expectation that every school should have an art show at one time during the school year. That is an expectation. If you are not doing an art show at your school site once a year, that is an expectation. Okay, that is part of your domain 4. So art shows, art exhibitions, having participation in a place in the community like your local library, parent nights, field trips, morning show, having student artwork just around the school. Also participating in those events, okay? So in the end, how does your administration view you and your program? As positive, as important, or as showing up and doing your magic in your room and then nobody sees it, or that you're showing up and you're doing what you need to do and then going home? Okay, so as much as that is sad, that's a reality in some of our schools, or that's a reality that our administrators think is happening in some of our schools. So the more that they see, the more that they believe. If you have students that are excited, then you have parents that are excited and administrators that are excited, because what you're doing is changing them. The more kids engage in art, and then they get all those hidden benefits, and then more parents get excited. You have happy kids being happy parents. And then the more that they see, no one can deny that you're working hard. And in the end, if it comes to a table, again, where an administrator is told that they have to make cuts, there's going to be second thoughts on cutting programs where students are happy and they're coming to school and they feel that they're making change. Okay? So that kind of brings us to what our expected participation is for our events for the school year. So a couple of years ago, art was finally considered to be put on the district. Drawing a blank right now. It'll come to me. The strategic plan, the district strategic plan, and that is basically saying, like, each content area. What does each content area do to contribute to student success and the success of the district? And so our element of the strategic plan is community involvement and student recognition and growth. Okay, so what better way than making a connection with our community who supports us, but then also providing opportunity for students to grow and be recognized. So there are 3 events that is an expectation that your art program participate in each year. Okay, I'll be really honest. It is really disappointing to see that we have some art programs that do not contribute a minimum of 1 piece of artwork for the Tampa Museum of Art for Young at Art. Okay, or a minimum of 8 pieces of artwork for the Dali. And if you think about it, that is 8 students. If you're already giving them the project, if they're already building work, okay, and you have how many students that you see in a day, that you are not giving 8 students the opportunity to be considered. And this is all about student opportunity. It's not about, yes, it's about making your art program look good and look involved. And yes, it's advocacy efforts, but in the end, it is based on student opportunity. So for middle school, your opportunities are 1 piece of artwork for Young at Art, okay? 8 pieces of artwork for the Dali Museum, and 8 pieces of artwork for Scholastic. okay? And for each of these opportunities, especially for Scholastic, you are providing opportunity for these students for college scholarships, national recognition, and they're not going to get these opportunities from somewhere else. Many of them have no way of looking up for these opportunities. They don't have parents that sit down with them and go, okay, baby, we're going to find you some art competitions to participate in. These students are depending on you for communication, and they're depending on you for some kind of opportunity. And so when it comes time for that deadline and we have 3/4 of our middle school and almost half of our high schools that are not participating in any of these events, you are not, then this is again part of your domain 4. This is an expectation of your profession. You are not, you're letting those students down. You are not providing those students opportunity. And I know I apologize for seeming confrontational, but it is disappointing. It is sad that we have students that are not giving opportunity, not because their parents are not don't know any better to look for them, but that their art teachers are not at least letting them know that that's out there for them. For high school, 8 pieces for the Dali, 8 pieces minimum for Scholastic, and then you have that 14 congressional for high school, okay, with the Tampa Museum of Art. So this information is on the general information Canvas page where you found this link. And as more information like online registrations are ready, then that information will be up there. Okay, and so that page will be available all year. So I won't be closing off the Professional Study Day module. So you should be able to go back and find that information. Really, really hope that we have more student opportunity this year because that is what we're all about. We're all about student opportunity and building those babies up. And other opportunities that are not an expectation, but are definitely wonderful for your students to participate in. And so as these different opportunities kind of pop up, a call for work will come from Kylie Hingle to your inbox, and as well as teams. All right, so speaking of teams, new forms of communication, we have been yanked out of first class. Whew, thank goodness. And we have been kind of thrown into, amongst all many other forms of technology last year, into Outlook and Teams. So, Teams is a great forum. We've created a couple of different channels. So you have one that is specifically for middle school art, one that is specifically for high school art. And then also all of those elementary peeps that are going to ask questions about, color wheels and how to deal with 10 classes a day of 1st through 5th graders are on their own team. Their own channel. But then also this is where we're going to share calls for work and other opportunities. There may be other opportunities for just teachers, like, places for you to show your own work, or scholarships, or, professional development opportunities. And then as far as Outlook goes, you will, for the most part, not be getting any more mass emails. Okay, so things like call for work, all that other information will be in Teams. All right. Because we know that there are times where you get inundated with a ton of emails, and unless it is something that is super important or an emergency, it will go directly into Teams. It is a professional expectation that you check these regularly. There are so many opportunities that are missed, or important information that is lost, because I know we get in the groove of things, and we get in the morning, and at 7:30 in the morning, we got our cup of coffee, and that cup of coffee sits on our desk until 10 o'clock, and then we reheat it and we drink it again. And then it's, 4 o'clock and we're exhausted, and then we go home, and we don't want to read our email at home. And I get it. But then it's the next day, and it's hamster wheel over and over. And then it's been 2 weeks since you've read your email, and you've missed out on opportunities. So please try to get into some kind of maybe routine of maybe checking your email at least once a day. Just so that, if there is anything important, either an emergency or something that's really great, but it's time sensitive, that you're on it. So building district resources with your help. So, currently we have in Canvas, aside from kind of like district, protocol and policy and reminders and stuff like that, we have in Canvas 2 different types of lesson plans. Okay, so we have current archived inspirations in Canvas, and these are lesson plans that were kind of scraped, some at the very bottom of the barrel, from what we had in first class. And those are things that could have been, I don't know, 2007, 2009. And well, good lessons or good main ideas really kind of, don't have kind of what education has evolved into. And they're very minimal, or they're not, they're a little bit out of date, okay, or they're not very thorough. And then we also have the district lesson plans that we built in Canvas Commons over this last year. We had several wonderful teachers that shared their expertise. We don't have a ton, and the representation are from a limited number of educator experts. So while those are, exemplary lessons, at the same time, it doesn't really have, it's a limited number of voices. So what we need to do is we need to build capacity in our archives. And when we do that, what we're doing is we're taking different lesson plans from different lenses and even shared with different demographics and building a more diverse, bank of lesson plans. And this is where you guys are going to be coming in. So you guys have been asked today, aside from bringing your own device, also bringing what you feel is one of your favorite lessons or an exemplary lesson, okay? And within each of our lessons, we need to make sure that we have certain elements. And these are kind of like those best practice elements of a lesson plan, all right? And what we're going to do is we're going to take what you feel is your exemplary lesson, and we're going to put it into, just for consistency's sake and to make sure that each lesson plan that we have that we're going to put in this bank has all of those essential elements. You're going to plug in your lesson plan into this template, okay? So if there are elements of this template that you do not have in your lesson plan right now, because you've been in the groove and you've been doing this lesson for the past 5 years and it's great, and then sometimes, oops, I completely forgot that to do a simple formative assessment, okay? That's where you're going to have to, kind of think and be Johnny on the spot and think of something for a simple formative assessment for your lesson plan and plug it into the section on this template. So by the end of today, if each person were to contribute one lesson plan, we would have probably about 80 to 85 lesson plans to put in a bank. We can organize it by studio area. And then that way, you guys have some kind of inspiration. And just as a reminder again, that when you find these, you're going to have to modify a little bit and adapt it to make it your own for your own kiddos and for your own learning style. But at the same time, we will have a bank of really good detailed lessons from you all that are going to be diverse, which I think is going to be wonderful in the end. So you are going to spend some time completing this lesson plan, and then there will be a little bit of time at the end of your day during that task section to kind of really quick to be like, hey, this is what my lesson plan is. You don't have to go through every single one of these elements, but kind of give everybody a quick rundown of like, hey, this is what my lesson plan is. And it's really cool. And I'm excited about it because of this. Okay. That also kind of lets everybody else that's in your little network know what you're bringing to the table, which is exciting. Okay. So this is a bonus resource that I actually created for elementary this year, but I'm also going to be putting it into Canvas and in Canvas Commons. And it's also going to be as a link at the very bottom of this Canvas page. But this is our extension plan. And the reason that we're creating extension plan is because elementary, their new adopted materials is with the Flex curriculum with the Art of Education University. And so they have gotten access to these Flex materials. But just like when you're looking for any kind of lesson plan out in that, art lesson plan ether, from anywhere in social media or from Davis or from, any kind of other publications, that you're not going to take it for what it is and it's a cookie cutter lesson plan. You have to kind of make sure that it's meeting what we consider our district expectations of an art lesson plan that leads our students to success. So these are those elements. They're the same elements that you have for your lesson plan template that you're going to create, which is you have to have some kind of opportunity for art criticism. That is a state mandate. Gradual release steps. Okay, that I do, we do, you do. Cultural and academic connections. So how are you tying that, to a specific artist from a different culture, or a practice from a different culture, or how are you infusing math or literacy? Higher order thinking prompts. So in what ways, questioning stems do you have that you always use to make sure those students are answering higher order thinking? They're not just regurgitating facts or steps. Creative choice and decision making. Are you making sure that every single student's piece of artwork does not look so much the same because they followed every single step that you've written on the board, and the only way they can tell the difference is if they turn it over and find their name? Okay, not everybody's pictures should not look exactly the same. So you are giving them, within the rubric of learning a new technique, some form of creative choice and decision making. Ongoing assessment opportunities, turning in the project at the end. And even if you do provide them a rubric, which you should, that is not the only way that you are assessing their learning. Are you checking on them throughout? Are they journaling? Are they stopping to reflect? Is there a midpoint critique? And then that student reflection at the very end. Not only are they just assessing themselves through the rubric of giving themselves certain points and then you either agree or disagree, but are you giving them opportunity to kind of reflect on their journey? So they're learning about themselves as critical thinkers and artists and problem solvers. So that way, when they go to do the next project, they know a little bit more about themselves as creators. So this extension plan is something that I'm encouraging all of my elementary teachers to do, but any teacher to do if they find a lesson plan that's kind of out in the middle of nowhere. You find something that is like, oh, that looks like an amazing lesson, or that's a really cool final product. I want my students to do that. But then you find this lesson plan and it's Swiss cheese, or it's got a ton of holes in it, or it literally has 5 steps, and then everybody's done and everybody's work looks the same. So this is a great kind of extension plan to finding a regular lesson, and then making sure that that lesson that you find is hitting all of the targets of our district expectations for success for an art lesson. So in a nutshell, I love this guy, I use him every year. In a nutshell, you are supported. So you have colleagues here, in all the schools, but also, at the district level, you have your HAEA and your FAEA and HEF associations to help you out. Our vendors and what the processes are. And you also have all of those resources in Canvas. And you're going to contribute to those resources too. So you have some buy-in there, which I really appreciate. Procedures, understanding kiln procedures, budget spending and vendors and using your budget, and mailing artwork and deadlines, advocacy and events. So just remember that you are art when you come to work every day. Art doesn't have to have a good day every single day. Art is not perfect, but at the same time, you are a representation of the magic of our content area. And events for student opportunity, and remembering that your students are dependent upon you to share opportunity with them, because for many of them, they won't find it anywhere else. Teams, Outlook, and Canvas, and how we are using those as communication tools, and making sure that you kind of, check them regularly to make sure you're up to date. And then are building our resources together. And I can't tell you enough that, aside from physical education as being K-12, art is the only K-12 department. And being K-12 is a lot. It is also a lot for only one person. And I wear many hats in this position. So aside from curriculum and being an advocate and being a representative, and being a support for all of our teachers, I just like you are maybe an island at your own school, I am an island. And so anytime that I can, kind of bank on your expertise and we can work as a team to build strength, for all of us is much appreciated. So before you continue with your day, and so at the end of this, you're going to go ahead and do that survey that's at the bottom of this page, and provide any kind of questions or feedback and information for that survey. And then after that, you're going to kind of network until 10 o'clock, and then we'll start our breakout sessions. Before we continue with our day, I just want to, kind of leave you with, there's going to be a lot of collaboration and sharing today. You need to lean on your colleagues. Okay, so there's all I can say is that sometimes you won't have you won't have someone there to tell you to do, but you'll have a shoulder to stand next to. So please lean on your colleagues as resources. And then the last thing that I want to say is, I really appreciate you more than I can say. Last year was a really hard year. And for all of you that have, kind of put on your blinders and weathered the storm and made it throughout to, what we hope is the other side. And we're all here today. That takes a lot, and it takes a lot from you professionally and personally. And I appreciate that. So I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. I will be in and out. But remember, I'm also have to be present at 14 hub sites, and we also have our theater folks that are in the media center over at Jefferson. So I'm poking in there as well. So I will make sure to say hi, and please share any kind of feedback and information with those surveys that are provided today.